Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. I would like to welcome all of you to the fifth episode of a very special series. To me, it's very special, at least, on the discussion of a book. The book is called The Mechanics of Mediumship. It was written by the spiritual author André Luiz and psychographed by Chico Xavier and Waldo Vieira. And it's, as I mentioned before, it's probably one of the most technical and scientifically inspired works in the entire Spiritist literature because it uses that knowledge, the very technical knowledge, to explain the phenomenon of mediumship through a combination of spiritual insights and analogy from physics, biology, chemistry, electromagnetic theory, so on and so forth. Luis, how you doing?
I'm good. I'm good. Yeah, it is a little bit of everything. It's a mix of all of it.
And with your background, it becomes maybe a little bit easier for you not only to understand but to explain, right? But I love that you're doing this. And just before we get started, I wanted just to say that Luis, you are such an expert in spiritism in general, but also in mediumship in particular. And you're here to lead us into this. Explanation that is highly visual, right? And it helps us better capture the essence of the teachings behind this book. But for you who is here with us, whether you're new to this subject or maybe you've been curious for years, this series, The Mechanics of Mediumship, will be able to shed some light on all of us on the nature of spiritual communication and the quite impactful effect that it can have in our own understanding of the universe. So let's go ahead and dive in. And maybe you have not seen the previous four episodes. Let me just go ahead and introduce you to Luiz Lima if you don't know him yet. So if you don't know him, I can call you my friend, can't I, Luis?
Yeah, sure.
Luiz Lima was born in Rio de Janeiro, in Brazil. In 1990, he came to the US and he became at that point in contact with spiritism, right? And that was all it took. He then began not only learning, but also teaching, lecturing on the theory behind spiritism in both Portuguese and English. And he has done this for quite a while. He is now living in the US, in Orlando, but also in Portugal, Porto. Luis, as I mentioned before, has a background in engineering and he works in the computer network industry. We talked, right, and I know you're going to speak to it, Luis, but you talked about the phenomenon, then focus on the medium, and
Mhm,
then the physicality, the physical aspects of the phenomena.
mhm.
And today he, oh, no, not today. He also talked about psychometry, and today he will explore a very interesting idea, and it comes from that maybe that word ideoplasty. But with that, I'm not going to take more time. Louise, I'll see you at the end. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Marcia. It is so interesting the way the book is laid out. So it's so many different, like you said, the technical things. So here we go. This is our program number 5. You see the other 4 previous programs listed here. And here we go. Program number 5. Today we're going to talk about this. It's called ideoplasty. Well, first question: what is that, and what is that in relation to? It's a word that you're not going to find in a common regular dictionary. It's just not there. It's if you go to an English, even British dictionary, It's not going to be there. It's a word that has a specific meaning in Spiritism. So, and that's the idea here today, to develop what this means and how we relate to it, because it affects all of us, not only mediums, all of us. So it is worth, taking a look and understanding that. The word itself, as you see on the screen, comes from ideo and plastos. Ideo is anything that an idea, a thought, anything in those along those lines, and plastos is to mold something. So ideoplasty, the general idea behind it, it's to mold things from an idea. That sounds complicated. Well, let's try a better definition, or a more geared towards Spiritism. And we go with this. Ideoplasty is the mental ability to shape, influence, or create forms, conditions, or realities through the power of thought. Okay, that's already a lot. That's already a lot. So we're going to go easy here. So it's a mental ability. So we're talking something that is outside the material life, outside the material plane. So it's a mental ability that can shape or influence or create forms, create conditions, and create full-blown realities. All of it with the power of thought. That sounds, to say the least, interesting, right? And it is. So as we go along and discuss the subject, we're going to include a lot more information than what it is in the book. There's a full chapter in the book, chapter 19, but we need more to bring in more elements to provide, I would say, a more detailed explanation. And that's what we're going to do as of now. In the book itself, there's a phrase that we can use to define, according to the actual spiritual author of the book. And that's the phrase right there. It's a phenomenon through which thought is the key here. Thought can be materialized, creating forms that are often of lengthy duration, depending on the persistence of the wave in which they are expressed. So let's go easy again. Thought that can be materialized. What is materialized? It's made out of matter. It's something materializes here in this sense, means something became physical for us to see and look at, all with the thought. That's exactly what this is. Creating forms, and it depends on the intensity and the duration of this thought. A thought that we have for a long, and that's in general in life. If you hold a thought for a long time, that becomes really intense for you yourself. Just not a medium, not mediumship, just in life. And it becomes intense also because of the length, the duration. More time thinking about it, make it kind of happen more, or at least the probability of making it happen increases. We're going to detail all of this throughout our presentation here. So we're trying to get the right words to define. So it is all about thought. And the same author, in a different book that belongs to the same series, puts a definition of thought, very interesting, that goes exactly along with the definition of ideoplasty. Thought is a creative force. You see, we were talking about thought creating things. Thought is a creative force, shaping our spiritual forms and even the environment around us. Okay, so thought is a creative force, shaping our spiritual forms. What is the paraspiritual form? It's our physical appearance, our physical body comes as a consequence of a form that is our perispiritual form. And that thought can even shape the environment around us to the point that, as we are going to see shortly, things are not physically, they do not physically exist around us, but for us it does. It becomes our reality. Let's go for this thing. Let's see what we can take away from all of this. For us to talk about ideoplasty, we need to do a crash course in what we call in Spiritism subtle bodies. Without this, it's very complicated, very difficult to understand the subject. Just like last program, we spoke about psychometry. We had to put a crash course on ectoplasm. So we're going to do something similar here. So here's our crash course on subtle bodies. We know that we are a spirit, which I'm representing by this star-like, because there's no physical representation for a spirit. So, just bear with me here. So we are spirit and physical body, that we know. And we have an element which links both. It's called the perispirit. And this is very well defined and very well debugged in Spiritism. So here we are. Spirit, perispirit, and physical body. For us to understand ideoplasty, we need to fragment for, I would say, study purposes. We need to fragment the perispirit. So we are going to fragment the perispirit in 3 parts. These parts are called subtle bodies. So our perispirit is now a combination of 3 bodies. So we end up being this spirit, 3 subtle bodies, and 1 physical body, if we are incarnated, which is the case here. So understanding what these bodies, these subtle bodies, are doing here will make a lot of sense in understanding ideoplasty. When you look at this visually, as a picture, as an image on your screen, and I did it on purpose, this becomes more like a production line. So you have this coming from left to right. You have the spirit coming to the first subtle body, the second, the third to the physical body. And that's exactly what happens. Each subtle body carries a different level of energy. That's why we had to fragment to be able to explain what we are going to explain now. So here's the image that we're going to leave it on the screen so we can follow. What is the spirit? The spirit is the essence, or self, or intelligent principle, depends on what term you want to use. It doesn't really matter. The spirit houses our vices and virtues. Every time we react or we act on a situation in life, we use either vices or virtues or a combination. So somebody comes to talk to us, for example. If we don't like the person for whatever reason, it doesn't really matter. We can respond in a way that we know it's going to be aggressive by design. I want to be aggressive to this person because I don't like it, for example. Or the other way, and then we are using the bucket of vices that we have in the intelligent principle. So also somebody comes to us and you go all like, oh my God, you're here. I like you so much being around. So we are responding to the situation using our bucket of virtues. So that's what the spirit houses. And the spirit is the cause of everything else that comes along the way in this production line. I want you to have this idea of a production line. So one thing passes along to the next, then to the next, and to the next, because this is exactly what happens. So when the spirit takes action out of, vices or virtues, it's going to produce a thought to every situation that we act or react. Before we actually do it, we produce a thought. For example, very simple. If you're going to go to the supermarket to buy, let's say, a bottle of milk, you had the thought of doing that first. Even if you were already in the supermarket, very close to where the bottles of milk are, you would look at them and say, oh, I need to get it. You thought about it before the action. So thought comes before anything else. So it is the first line of action of a spirit. The first thing that happens is produce a thought that is compatible with whatever the spirit is trying to do: act, react, do something. So that is produced by this first subtle body that we name it mental body. So the only purpose of the mental body is produce thought. Well, how come produce thought? Thought is produced by generating what we call thought forms. Some people call mental images. Name doesn't matter. What matters is the idea. It's more or less like this. When I think of something myself, you don't know what I'm thinking. I can tell you what I'm thinking, and you're going to believe that because there's no way for you to know what I'm thinking. However, when we think of something for the spirit world, we are kind of, if we were drawing on a piece of paper what we are thinking and presenting to them. This is what I'm thinking. So whatever we think, our thoughts are visible to the spirit world. There's tangibility of this thing. It's tangible for those in the spirit world. All our thoughts, all of them. That's interesting, right? That's why Paul used to say there's a cloud of these witnesses all over the place because of this. Whatever we produce as a thought form becomes visible or tangible, is a better word, in the spirit world. Okay, so now I thought of something. The spirits around me, they know what I'm thinking. So that goes to the next thing. And I pass that along to the next subtle body, which is we call spiritual body. There are different names, but we're going to use this, which is the most common name, spiritual body. What this body does is the accounting, the moral accounting of each spirit. So, for example, if somebody, going back to our example in the beginning, if somebody comes to me and I want to react with, let's just say I'm going to be very aggressive to this person because I don't like him, for example. So my mental thought is, here's my picture, all of you in the spirit world, I'm going to be aggressive with this person. I haven't been yet, but the spirit world already knows about it. That goes down to the next in line, the spiritual body, which is going to put that in my moral accounting bank. So that's going to go in as a debt. If I'm doing something nice and neat and some fraternity work, some charity work, that's going to go in as a credit. All our debits and all our credits from day one is simple and ignorant, are here. We carry that with us from day one. Not what we did since last morning, since last week. No, from day one, which is since the simple and ignorant, the first spark. So what happens? Now, my attitude before I even do it. You see, we are right here. We are at the level of intention. The action hasn't been done yet. You will only get done when it gets to the physical body, which I'm going to actually speak, use my voice or use my hands or something to be aggressive to this person. So at this level here, we're still in intention, but I'm already doing, increasing my debt, providing that, we follow the example, I'm going to be aggressive. So what happens here? If this is where I have all my debts and credits, it is going to be imprinted on my perispirit. So our actions are imprinted in our perispirit. Remember, the perispirit is a combination of the three bodies in the middle. When this thing gets to the spiritual body, it gets written as a debt, as a credit, and then it goes to the next one, which we're not going to spend too much time because it's not really the purpose today here. Is just as illustration. The next body is the etheric double, where the ectoplasm that we spoke about last week is, and then from there things go into the physical realm, physical body, and I'll take my action. Like I said, I'm going to express my voice of, I don't like you, or uh, hands, or whatever it is. So this is how things work. Everything starts with a thought. So that's pretty intense. And the combination of all these emanations from all these subtle bodies is called aura. That's what aura is. It's a combination of every single thing that each subtle body and the physical body and the spirit emanates. The aura is my ID in the spiritual realm. It's like my driver's license. Here I am. This is who I am. Except that I don't have a physical ID card to show anybody, to tell them who I am. They already know based on my thoughts. I don't need to tell them. And it's of no use going to the spirit world and just shouting, I was thinking this, but I wasn't. They saw it. That's it. A one-way street. So the aura is our ID in the spiritual realm. So going back here to the thought, let's bring this back in here. What happens, for example? So my thought somehow is going to be imprinted on my perispirit. Now, what happens, for example, with everyone around me in the spirit world? We're talking about something fluidic creations here. So there are other spirits here. They are all producing their thought forms. They are all thinking. So what happens to those thoughts of those other spirits? They blend together with mine. They blend together. It's like two people talking. We can talk at the same time, maybe by accident, maybe because I want to do it. So you're talking and I come on top of you and I talk at the same time. So things get mixed. It is the same thing here. So thoughts, my thought forms, are subject to the influence of other thought forms. But here's the trick. The mix of thought forms happens after I produce my thoughts. So if I produce a thought that is something, I want to do something evil, for example, what kind of thoughts are going to mix with mine? Those who are around the same frequency. So what am I attracting around me? Evil spirits. If I want to do if my thought is I want to do this great work of charity tomorrow, and so what kind of thoughts I'm going to get around me? Thoughts of charity, fraternity, love, and everything in that sense. I am attracted by my ID card. I attract other people, other spirits, by showing them my ID card. How do I show my ID card? Thought. Okay, so what happens now that my thought form got mixed with other spirits? A bunch of them, okay? They are all tangible. So all of them now, all of this is going to be imprint on my perispirit. This is all going to show up on my perispirit somehow. How come? Remember, the next body coming from mental body is the spiritual body. That's in credits. If I do something bad, I got debts. Those spirits around me will amplify my thought form, will amplify my debt, which goes to my perispirit, recorded in my perispirit. That's my accounting book. If I'm thinking something good, what kind of thought forms I'm going to attract to join mine? good thought forms. So they amplify my thought form, and it is imprinted on my perispirit. Thought is everything. So we got to be careful with that. So depending on what goes on my perispirit, it could be something bad if my thoughts are negative, right? Or it could be something nice and good if my thoughts are positive. I cannot blame those spirits around me thinking things that are not good or negative. Why are they there? Because I am bringing them closer by presenting my ID card. So we can't escape this. This is the law. So negative thoughts will make things complicated for myself. Positive thoughts will make things easier, nicer for myself. So all of this is for us to understand the importance of thoughts. We saw in the beginning the definition of the ideoplasty is linked to thoughts, to the definition of thoughts, to what we do with our thoughts. So we can talk about a little bit of what could be negative and what could be positive in terms of ideoplasty. Remember, what is ideoplasty? Something that becomes reality out of my thoughts or combination of thoughts. So on the negative side, obsession is typical. What is obsession? Is when I might not even feel it, but when I have low order spirits surrounding me, a lot of it happens because of karmic reasons. We're not going to go into this today, it's not the purpose. But we have spirits that don't like us. They want to see us suffering. They don't want to see us getting better for whatever reason. So they will be closer to us as much as they can to make things difficult for us, to create some sort of harm. How come they can approach me? Because of my thoughts. So obsession is a typical situation to the point where, depending on the intensity and the duration of their thoughts, the thoughts of those who don't like me. So if their thoughts is very intense and they can sustain for a long time, it starts impacting me to the point where we can do weird things. We can get into depression. We can go to the extreme of it, which is suicide. Or we can just, feel de-energized all the time. We, don't care for things that we used to do and like. We kind of leave life behind, if you will, when this is too intense. And not necessarily it's one spirit doing this. It's a combination, because that one spirit brings others with them. It's all a web of spirits, right? So obsession is a typical case where my reality becomes different than my reality in my mind, becomes different than my reality in the physical life, to the point that you can be undergoing some serious depression, for example, and somebody comes to you, you're lying down, you're not feeling good, of course you're in depression. So somebody comes to you and say, what you feeling? No, everything is wrong. And you look around and you say, but everything is not wrong, everything is good, there's a nice garden here with plants and flowers. Their reality is not the same in the two worlds, their spirit world and the material world. The reality of the material world gets shadowed by ideoplasty. Here's another example: illnesses. A very simple, not necessarily illness, but something that bothers a lot. People with migraines, for example, which is this, uncomfortable to say the least, uh, uh, symptom. But what happens is there are some people that go with migraines for, no kidding, 30 years in their life, 20 years, 35 years. Of course, you try to do something. You go to doctors, you look for new technology, new treatment, new medicine, if you will. You look into your routine, you do things, try to do things differently, and nothing, absolutely nothing helps. And you're always feeling that from time to time, every, I don't know, 6 days, 10 days. So it becomes to you, to the person undergoing this, unexplainable. It becomes unexplainable. How come? Why me? Then you start going towards a different direction. And why is that? Because those spirits are causing harm to the point that this is materializing in our physical bodies. That's ideoplasty. Effect of mental creations and fluidic creations in the material world. Another one that I listed here is distraction. And what this means is, because it was going to be too long to write something different, is distraction when the medium, by the way, we're talking about obsession and illnesses, and this is for a regular person, let alone the medium, who is much more sensitive. So it is much more complicated for the medium to not get into obsession, not get into illnesses, and not get into this distraction that takes them away from their work. Because the work of mediumship is noble. These spirits, evil spirits, low order spirits, they don't want you to do this way. They don't want mediums doing their work. They don't want it. So they will do everything to their power to distract the medium during the mediumship meetings, the mediumship sessions. So they will, like deviate their thought. So they are no longer then participating actively on the meeting or sustaining the meeting. That's what they want. That's ideoplasty. They put things into your hand that materialize, and you just get away from the meeting for 15 seconds. Oh, when I get home, I gotta do this. You see, it was not harmful, but it distracted you to the point that you couldn't do your job. Maybe you don't even notice. Ideoplasty is subtle, except for physical effects. Now, on the other side, we got good things too. Ideoplasty is used for good things too. Please, enough of bad things, right? Number one, teachings. A lot of the teachings that one of the mediums that participated or channeled this book, Chico Xavier, the other medium is Baldo Vieira, but Chico Xavier, he tells us a lot. He channeled over 450 books. And he tells us that a lot of the teachings he was able to grasp and put on books, they came in by ideoplasty. He was being taken into or with fluidic creations that would put him in the middle of certain scenes so he could describe the scene. So yeah, ideoplasty is used for good teachings. Why not? Passes. What is the purpose of a pass? If you think about it, it's to make you feel better. If you go to a spirit center, I don't know if it already happened to you, maybe more than once, or if you know about somebody. Sometimes you go to the spirit center, your day was, too heavy, too complicated. For whatever reason, you had a heavy day. So when you get to the center, you're kind of feeling, low energy, maybe a headache. So you go for the passes. When you get out, you're feeling great. So there was some sort of intervention in the physical realm because your body is physical. 70 trillion to 100 trillion cells. So there was some sort of interference of the good spirits, of course, in the center, and that was passed along to our physical bodies. That is ideoplasty, because there was physical intervention, although we can't see it, but that's ideoplasty. And here's another one: spiritual colonies. Solar being one of the most, probably the most famous one. A spiritual colony is sustained by highly evolved spirits that can obviously sustain that 100% of their time because of their discipline. So they can create out of these, the fluid of the planet, they can create these things where you see buildings and you see flowers and gardens and so and so and so and so, and people in the spirit world. That's spiritual colonies. It's a collective situation here where ideoplasty is what makes it happen. The ability to generate and form environments, form things. And again, thoughts are the starting point of all of this. Depending on the intensity and the persistence of the thought, this is going to be more intense or less intense. Can you imagine how intense and persistent this has to be to support and sustain solar? Okay. How do we improve the influence that we suffered, especially the medium? Like I said, by being a sensitive in itself is the challenge is even greater. How do we improve these influences? First of all, having good habits, good thoughts, doing good things. Reading, for example, reading things that are good. Instructions and prayer, meditation, all of these things are good habits that will put our minds in a more elevated stage, at least for that time, avoiding then the presence of spirits that can create or produce mental fluidic creations against ourselves. Avoid negative thinking. Be positive on our thoughts always. Anything that we do negative with our thoughts is going to go against ourselves. Criticism, resentment, and it goes on and on and on, and revenge and intolerance and all of that, fear. All of those things are negative. They increase the probability of receiving negative influence from the spirits through the phenomenon, ideoplasty. Another one, constructive vision board. Think about this. We all know what vision board is, right? So you want to be rich, then that's one of the examples, right? You want to be rich, so you put a $100 bill, on top of your ceiling, on top of your bed. So every day you wake up, you open your eyes and you see $100 bill. Oh my God, I gotta work because I gotta be rich. That's the purpose of a vision board. We do this a lot. A lot of people do. Do we see results? Yes, because the person really focus on that. And, depending on the circumstances and the work that the person does, yeah, it's achievable. Of course it is, for certain things. Now, we do this. We use vision boards for material achievement. We don't do vision boards usually for healing other people, especially if it's for other people. We think vision board is personal. Not necessarily. We don't put on our vision board on the on the ceiling of our houses, on top of our bed. I want to improve. I want to be better. I want to be a better person. Today I want to do this better than yesterday. We usually use vision board for material things. And there's absolutely nothing that prevents us from using vision boards for non-material things. It would help us deal with the situation. And practice charity, which is love in action. And as we know, love is the highest and purest creative thought. So thoughts of love, thoughts of fraternity, thoughts of charity, those are the ones that are going to improve the influence that we are subject to these negative people with or spirits with negative thoughts. They won't come around us. So the phenomena of ideoplasty, three things here. It does not depend in any way on the subject's conscious will. Subject being the person, for example, me, you, the medium. It does not depend in any way on conscious will. It depends on what? It depends on mental images or thought forms. That's it. It depends on my ID card. These phenomena, they are always produced, whether by a seemingly strange will, which is no more than spiritual influence. So they are produced whether by a seemingly strange will or by a conscious idea or by subconscious personality. It is subconscious idea or personality. It's not something that we think, oh, let me think here for 5 minutes because I want to produce ideoplasty. No, it's not what happens. It comes from my ID card, it comes from the aura, it comes from my thoughts, from my fluidic emanations. That's what the aura is. And these are all fluidic creations, all of it. If things get materialized to the point that there's something in the physical realm, still it starts as a fluidic creation. All of it starts as a fluidic creation. If you go to the book, that chapter 19 is divided in 6 parts. Okay, so I'm just going to list the 6 parts here because we covered most of it one way or another. So the first part is called induced sleep. First of all, when you sleep, sometimes we have dreams. When you wake up next morning, that dream might be so intense, so real, so realistic that it frightens. Even if it's a good dream, you're still like, whoa. It's like, I need time to sink. Let this thing sink in. Because it was too intense, too real, too realistic. So that's very likely ideoplasty. Your and others together, mental creations were very intense, and it sounded physically realistic. There's a situation that is discussed in this part of the book, in this part of the chapter, about hallucination. Hallucination is different because you can't really think that ideoplasty is hallucination, because hallucination depends on a personality. Daydreaming, it depends on the personality. This is not what it is. You might sound very similar on the way that it comes to life, but it's not the same. Another thing that is in the book, okay, another section of the same chapter, it's called physical phenomena. We discussed about different phenomena. Physical phenomena could be, for example, the formation of things. We discussed this, I think, on the second program when I presented images of formations coming out of mediums, noses and mouth, and it was forming things, forming people, objects. So you would look at, for example, the object, and you would say, "Oh, here's this particular object, say a candle. So here's this candle, but there is no candle, physically speaking, because there's nothing there that makes it physical. It's an impression. It's like television. When you watch TV, okay, you're watching a movie, the artist is not in your house. He's not. That's a representation. So you can't really grab the artist. Let me shake his hand. It can't happen because it's not physical at that moment. Yeah, so it's the same thing here. Physical phenomena has to do with this, physical formations. And what the book insists on is the respect that those around have to have during the process. So if you go back again to our program number 2, there are several images. I think I put 6 or 8 images of these formations using the medium's ectoplasm. That's still ideoplasty. It's a mental creation that was materialized, these apparitions and physical objects. But while these objects and these things are being formed, everyone has to be concentrated. The medium is fully, absolutely concentrated. Any distraction, we spoke about distraction, right? Any distraction will create a problem. So there's got to be respect from all those around. So they do not interfere, they do not speak, they are not, "Oh, this is being formed this way, but I would like to see that way." No, this is, you're missing respect here if you do that for the medium and the purpose of the work. The other part, the other section on the book is called ideoplastic interferences. And that has to do with distraction. Distraction, so we spoke about this, that people in the room watching mediumistic sessions happen and discarnate spirits trying to deviate the attention of the medium, trying to, just take him somewhere else, take his thought somewhere else. It's not only discarnate spirits doing this, incarnate spirits might be doing this. For example, let's say there's a mediumistic meeting going on, and you have, let's just say, 3 mediums, and one of them is bringing, a discarnate spirit to the session. The other 2 are concentrated and waiting. If they lose their concentration, it impacts the whole meeting. The spirit that's communicating might even leave. So this the distraction is something that the medium needs to be aware of. So it's not distraction only from discarnate spirits. It's from those incarnate participating or around the meeting, the session, whatever it is, the study. Right? The next session on the book is called Mediumship and Responsibility, in which we know this, we speak about this all the time, the responsibility that the medium himself, herself carries in being part of a mediumship meeting, in just being a medium, what comes with it. A lot of responsibility. Mediums are having that opportunity because of wrongdoings of the past, so they are given this opportunity. So they better, shape up and do it right this time. So they gotta be disciplined. They gotta have concentration. It's part of their responsibility. The next section in the book they call other phenomena. He makes some comments on different things, but he addresses the cases of inexperienced mediums, those who are new to mediumistic sessions, those who are in the beginning, they're still studying. There's a long way, by the way, but they're still in the early stages of starting to participate in mediumship meetings. The problem is at this stage, there's a lot of curiosity. So it's relatively easy for the medium, the inexperienced medium, to be in a session and start, thinking, oh, it would be nice if I see this. It would be nice if that happens. So right now he's completely off the meeting, completely distracted, and it will impact the meeting because remember the combination of thoughts to form the ideoplasty, so we can ruin the meeting. And the last part in the book is called Degraded Mediumship, in which the main idea is the medium itself is not doing what it should. The medium is still in the point of, you know, idolatry. Oh, I want to go to the mediumship meeting because, oh, I'm a medium myself. This is That can't happen. The purpose of mediumship is very well defined. That's why mediums have to start a lot, a lot from the beginning. So they don't fall in situations like this. I'm really excited to go to the mediumship meeting tonight because of this, and I want to do this. You're going to be there, and the spirits are going to take care of it. It's not us in the meeting who decide what's going to happen or not. We follow. We don't establish the truth. We subscribe to it. And there you go. Thank you very much for, sharing all of this with us here. And again, comments are always welcome. And we're going to keep going. There's a program number 6 coming over. Okay. Thanks so much.
Oh, this is awesome. Thank you. We spent 5 chapters or 5 episodes together, and it is interesting. We can almost really grasp the remarkable power of thoughts, right? And how they shape, they influence our inner world, but actually potentially our material world around us, right? So it's really important for us to start to think about. We talk a lot about thought and the impact of thoughts, but how does it actually materialize? So with that, I really appreciate you being here with us, Luis, and wanted to ask if you have some final words or a prayer before we close today.
Yeah, let's do a prayer. Let me just say something.
Yeah.
Sometimes, for example, you're talking to a person and you notice that the person is not present.
A
And you
bit distracted, right?
totally, and this is a regular conversation, no mediumship, nothing. And you tell this person, "Where are you?" And the person, oh.
Yeah.
So what happened? That person was in a different reality.
Yes. Yes.
The thought took that person and assembled a different reality in a different environment with different people, objects, whatever it is.
Yeah.
That's ideoplasty.
Yeah. The examples that come to my mind, and I know it's very simple of that is, and you see more and more and more, are family, right?
Mhm.
Family members going, say, to a night out, and they're there, and each one of them have a mobile device. And I keep thinking, this is a time to be together. We Most of us work full time or study full time, and we have so little time together. And instead, we go into that alter reality, if you will, by whatever is a distracting mechanism. And I'm not saying good or bad, it's just you move from your thoughts, from that really important time allocated to be together to be somewhere else,
Yeah.
right? And we do that so often, right, Louise?
Yeah.
It's kind of sad. I just the mental vision of, I think, I don't know when was this, but it was a Valentine's Day
Mm.
in a nice restaurant. And particularly, I was there to celebrate Valentine's with my husband, but particularly to me was this young couple, and they were beautiful, right? You could see that she took time to do makeup and hair and a special, beautiful dress. And he too had a very, very nice, they were there and they
Mhm.
sat down and each one with their mobile devices. I, and it was like, what's going on? And it was very puzzling to me. But maybe we are addicted to be distracted.
Yeah.
And I think this is a call, an invitation, if you will, for all of us to train our minds to be present. You talked about the medium, right? And the responsibility and the discipline to be present. But we too should take that to really understand what the impact of being present. I don't know. This is what came to my mind.
Okay.
All right. So, any
So
final thoughts? If
now let's
not,
do a prayer here. So
yeah, I appreciate you doing a prayer so we can
okay.
conclude our time together, Luis. And thank
we
you.
we we thank Jesus for the opportunity that we're having here to do this work and to go through this learning process. Jesus, I ask you to please uh, make sure that the low order spirits, discarnate or incarnates, are assisted so we can elevate the collective thought of humanity. We know the planet is going through difficult times because of the spirits, the influence of spirits over us, incarnate spirits. So we need protection. We ask you for protection. Uh, we ask you to assist those in prisons. Some of them very, in rebellion state, don't even know why they're in there. Those in hospital beds, going there last minutes or last moments. They can be assisted in transitioning over to the other side. Thank you, Jesus, once again for this opportunity, and so be it.
So be it. Thank you, Luis. I really appreciate you. And thank you, everyone, for being here with us. And until next time, see you soon.